Bueno, muy buenos días a todas y todos. La verdad es un
Good
placer
morning,
tenerles
everyone.
nuevamente
It's a
por
pleasure for
acá en
us to
otro
have you here
webinar
again in
y
another
hoy un webinar
webinar.
especial
And
porque
today we have
vamos
a
a hablar
special
de este
webinar
programa
because we're
de
going to talk
café
about the
resiliente y
program, the coffee
sostenible.
that is
Por ahí
resilient,
creo que ha
that is
sido difícil
sustainable.
todavía buscar un nombre que
So
sea
I
muy
think that it's
atractivo, pero que
kind of
encierre todo el contenido.
hard to
Sin duda alguna, los miembros de la red café en
be
diferentes
very
sesiones con el
holistic
equipo de la
in the
Dirección de
whole
Operaciones, porque
content
varias unidades
of the
involucradas,
program. We have
han
different
estado
units that have been
trabajando y
involved,
dando de cabeza.
and they have been
Pero
working
hoy
and
vamos
trying
a
to
conocer un
find a
poquito
way on
más
how we
de
can
este
learn a
programa.
bit more
Así que
about this important program.
creo que sin mayor preámbulo le
So
vamos a
I
dar la
think that
palabra
without
a
further
nuestra
ado, I will
presidenta,
give the
a
floor to
Yorieli
our
Villalobos,
president, Yorieli
para que pueda
Villalobos,
darnos esas
who
palabras de
is going to go
bienvenida.
ahead and or give the open remarks.
Buenos días a todos y todas.
Good
¿Cómo
morning,
están? Espero que
everyone.
estén muy
Thank
bien.
you for being with us. I hope that
Muchísimas
you're
gracias
doing well.
por estar
Thank
hoy
you
aquí
for
conectados.
being
Sin
with
duda,
us
hoy
and our
tenemos
Zoom
una conversación
platform.
divertida y
I
muy
believe that
importante
climate
para
change
todas
has
las
become
organizaciones
one of the
y
challenges
unidades de
for the
trabajar
different
en
organizations. So,
interdependencia en esa
in order
situación
to be more
difícil.
resilient, more
Hoy estamos
adjustable,
aquí
I believe that
para ver
it's
lo que
a
los
great
compañeros
time
tienen
to
que
be
decirnos.
gathered here today to hear
Hay
our
muchos estudios
colleagues.
que nos dicen
We have different
que
research
advierten, ¿verdad? Que el mayor
saying or
objetivo
letting
del
us know
cultivo del
that the
café y del
crop
cacao
areas
podría
on
reducirse
cocoa,
a
on
medida
coffee
que se
can be
aumenten las
reduced
temperaturas.
because of
Además,
the
los
temperatures are
agricultores y
rising
agricultoras ya
and
enfrentan
our
pérdidas debido a
producers
lluvias irregulares,
are
fluctuaciones,
facing loss
aumento
because
de
of the
las
rainfall.
plagas y enfermedades,
This is
¿verdad? También
increase
tenemos
in
sequías y
pests
heladas
and
que se hacen más
different
frecuentes.
things that
Estos
are
problemas
happening to our
contribuyen
crops.
mucho
We
a nuestra
have
resiliencia ante estos
freezing.
cambios
We
y
want to be
estamos
more
pues
resilient
camino del
for
último
our
mes de
crops.
la cumbre de
We
acción
are
climática que se
about
celebra
a
en Brasil
month
y
now
queremos
to
asegurarnos pues que
celebrate
toda la
our
labor
COP
de
in
nuestros
Brazil.
pequeños
We
y
want to make
pequeñas
sure
productoras
that
sea
our
escuchada.
small and medium
Entonces, en la
producers
segunda
are
parte
being
de nuestra
heard and we have
reunión,
a single voice.
estamos aquí
This
para la
morning,
presentación del
again,
posicionamiento que
are
se va a
gonna
tomar, donde también
listen
las voces
to
en
the
el café
position that we're
fundamental,
gonna take to
el tema
COP30
de adaptación y
and
resiliencia en la
fundamentally
parte
resilience, adaptation, and
productiva.
coffee, as I mentioned
Xiomara,
already.
hemos
And as
intentado
Xiomara
buscar
mentioned,
muchos
we
nombres,
have
sobre
been
todo en
trying
el
to look for
contexto
different
que
names
refiere, ¿verdad? Pero
to
nuestra red de café
have
nos
the
brindará
context on
un
the same
programa de café
umbrella.
sostenible que
We're
queremos
gonna hear
que
about a
esperamos que se
program, an
convierta en una
initiative that we
herramienta
hope
para
that can
canalizar el
become a
respaldo de
tool
todos
so
nuestros
we
aliados
can support
estratégicos
all of our
y socios
strategic allies
comerciales. La
and
idea
commercial
pues es que
partners.
trabajemos
Now, the
juntos
idea is to
en
work together
fortalecer esa resiliencia
to be more
en el
resilient,
sector
to
en el
become
café
more
que
resilient
necesitamos todos los
for the
días,
coffee
¿verdad? Y hoy
growers.
más.
This is something
Entonces,
that we
no
do every
aprovechemos que
day, and
nosotros los
we're
que
not
estamos en
the
la
ones
punta
that
del
are
café
there in the
por
crowd,
aquí,
but we drink
pues sean
coffee every
realmente
day and we
beneficios para
enjoy
que
it.
este
So
espacio sea
welcome. We hope
benéfico
that
para
this is a
todos.
space that is
Muchísimas gracias a
of great
todos
benefit for all.
y
Thank you.
todas. Muchas gracias,
Thank you,
Yorieli, por esas
Yurieli,
palabras de
for this opening
bienvenida.
remarks. And
Les quiero primero, antes de
perhaps
pasar
first,
a
I
darle
will
voz al
like
Consejo de
to,
Directores, que nos va a
well, for
compartir
the
un
Council
poco
of
más
Directors,
sobre
Ana
el
Laura is going to share a
posicionamiento
bit more about this
ante la COP.
position
Me
for
gustaría
COP30.
explicar un par de
I would
detalles
like
de
to explain
logística.
a bit of details about the logistics that we're going to have
Confirmarme
for the
que
webinar.
estamos
Now, to
grabando
confirm
la llamada.
that we are
Eso es un
recording the
aviso
call.
anticipado de
So
registro en
for
el
us to let
webinar.
you know,
Y
this has
tenemos
been
traducción
already uh,
para las personas que
advised on the
quieran
registration
escuchar
process, and we have
inglés o
interpretation. If you
portugués,
want
ustedes
to
pueden
select
entrar
English, Spanish, Portuguese,
en el icono donde
the
dice
language
más
of
o donde
preference,
tienen
you
el
can
punto de
go to the
interpretación y
icon
se puedan
of
mover
interpretation.
entre idiomas.
If you scroll down, you will
So
find it
is
by
also an
the end
invitation.
of
Welcome everybody to
the
this
page.
webinar. We actually have translation available for you. So if you want to follow the webinar in English, please look for the translation globe where you can select your preferred language. E Isis me va a apoyar con la explicación en portugués, por
And
favor.
Isis is going to support it with the
Obrigada,
Portuguese
Anne.
part.
Bom dia a todos e todas, bem-vindos e bem-vindas a esse webinar de posicionamento da COP30. Queremos lembrar que temos tradução para português para todos e todas, né? Se buscam o botão interpretação abaixo, geralmente no Zoom ele tem um globinho com o nome interpretação e se não aparecer, geralmente tem três pontinhos onde vocês podem clicar nesses três pontinhos, vai aparecer no listado interpretação. Devem conectar a parte em português. para que possa escutar toda a apresentação em português. Para aqueles que nos acompanham também em espanhol, le recomendamos también hacer la activación de interpretación en español. En el caso que haya alguna
The
interrupción
recommendation
en
again is to
idioma,
select the
puedan
language of
escuchar en su
preference.
idioma nativo en español.
You can
Buen
select
día a
Spanish,
todos.
English, and
Buen día,
Portuguese. Good
Francisco.
morning again. Thank you.
Súper, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Entonces, con esto,
Excellent. Now, without
pasamos la
further
palabra
merge, I think that we can
a
give the
Ana
floor
Laura,
to Ana Laura,
nuestra colega dentro del Consejo de
our
Directores,
colleague
y Ana
in
Laura
the Council of
también
Directors.
ha
Ana Laura
participado muy
has
activamente
always
en el
been actively
trabajo
participating
que
on the
hayamos
work
preparado,
group
digamos,
to
el
prepare
posicionamiento desde CLAC
this session
ante
from
esa
CLAC
COP30 que
for
tiene lugar
COP30
en el mes de
that
noviembre
is going to
en
be
Brasil.
celebrated in November in Brazil.
Entonces, adelante,
So
Ana
yeah,
Laura.
thank you, Ana Laura.
Vamos a escuchar un poco nuestro mensaje
The floor is
central,
yours.
¿verdad? Que queremos
This is the central
compartir en el
message that we want to
contexto de la
convey, and this is the context of that we're going to present on COP30.
Vamos a ver si ya la escuchamos. Veo que
So we're
tienes el
ready.
micrófono encendido, pero todavía no te escuchamos, Ana Laura.
Ahora sí.
Ahora sí, súper. Adelante.
¿Cómo están? Bueno, buenos días
Well,
a todos y a
good morning
todas.
again,
Espero que estén muy bien.
everyone. I hope that you're all
Junto
doing
con la
well.
Comisión de
Thank you for
Desarrollo
being with us
Sostenible en
with
CLAC
the
y
Sustainable
formando
Commission in
parte de
CLAC
otros compañeros
that
y
is
compañeras
part
del Consejo de
of
Directores.
the Council of
No sé si
Directors
están ahí
with
presentes.
another colleagues. I don't know if we have them with
Las
us on the call,
cooperativas de comercio
but
justo, como
the
dice este mensaje,
fair
fueron
trade
la
cups
preparación para la
have
COP30,
been
ya que es
part
el
of
año de
what we wanted
posicionar
to
a las
prepare for
cooperativas
COP30. This is
y
the
pensábamos en
year
posicionar
of
el
COPs, so
comercio
we
justo
wanted
y nuestro
to give a
movimiento
position for
centrado en las
fair trade,
cooperativas, ¿no? Y el
our
trabajo que
movement that is
no solo
centering
para
the
la justicia
COPs, not
social,
only
sino
for
también para
social justice, but
enfrentar
also
desafíos
important
climáticos
to
y
face the
junto a otras
challenges on climate
cooperativas
that we
también
have.
somos parte de la
And now do
solución
you know
y
that this is also
aportan,
part
¿no?
of the
Desde
solution and it's
este
providing a
movimiento
very
local.
strong movement,
Deme un minuto que voy a
representing a
cerrar
very
la
strong
puerta.
movement.
Em, Entonces,
So,
el planteo que
um,
teníamos era poder posicionar a las cooperativas
So
para
our
poder
position is to give
interpretar
a
y en esta
chance to the
oportunidad
Cubs
que
so
por
they
primera
can
vez se
have a
iba a
voice.
celebrar la Cumbre
And
Mundial del Clima
since this
en
is the
Amazonas,
first
en este
time
caso
that
en
we are
América Latina,
celebrating on climate in
y para eso
Amazonia,
también muy importante la
we thought
participación
that
con
it was
CLAC, que
important
es la
with
coordinadora
Club
nacional
Fair that
de
is
nuestro
a
país, que tiene un trabajo muy
national
amplio
coordinator
en
that
incidencias,
is widely
relaciones
working on the
incluso también productos que
incidences,
se van a desarrollar.
relations, but also products that they
Y
want to
buscábamos
present.
también movilizar
And
a la
we
comunidad
also wanted to
internacional y
have
a
a
los líderes
movement
de
for the
las
international
COP30, que son
community
muy
alliances and
grandes,
COP30
de muchos
that is
actores que trabajan en el
strongly
clima
for
y
the
luego
important
también el
actors that are
sector
working on
del
climate, but
sector
also
público, ¿no? Del
with
gobierno, de
everything
los
that has to
gobiernos
do
que
with
hayan
governments,
acordado con el
public
Acuerdo de París
sector
y
agreements,
sobre todo
and the
mitigar
Paris Agreement
cómo tratar de
on
limitar el
how
avance del
to
cambio
limit
climático.
the advance of global warming.
Bueno, como había comentado, queríamos llevar y enaltecer a las cooperativas por el Año Internacional de la
So to
Cooperativa,
give
ya que
a
este mes es muy
voice and
importante
an
para
important
nosotros.
place to the Cubs
Y
because
pasamos al
this is important
siguiente.
for us. If we go to the next slide,
A ver, es que no lo vi. Anik, ¿quién maneja perdón, el PowerPoint?
Lo estoy manejando yo, Ana Laura.
Ah, Pati. Ok,
Hola.
gracias. Para avanzar el siguiente, ¿puede ser?
Aquí.
Ok. Bueno, esto de lo que nosotros deseábamos posicionar era ya
so as we
claramente hacer un llamado a los
wanted
gobiernos
is
y todos los actores
to
que van a estar presentes en la COP
call upon
a
all of
formar
the
parte
organizations that have representations on
con el movimiento
COP30
de comercio
to
justo para
be
hacer esa
part of
transición
the fair
justa
trade for the fair
y
transition
buscar la implementación de soluciones
and to look for
climáticas.
the implementation of
No sé si muchos
climate
lo conocen porque
solutions.
también trabajan en
Maybe
otras
you
ramas
are
de la COP,
aware of and
pero
familiar
acá
for the coffee
trabajando
project. In
en
CLAC, we are
proyectos y
working on
programas
different
de
projects and different
análisis
programs and
sistematización
analyzing
que permiten lograr
automation
que las
so
cooperativas
we
son
can go
parte
ahead and
de la
show
solución
that
y
COPs
que no
are part of the
solamente
solution,
aporten
not
a la
only
expansión productiva
helping
y
on
mejorar
diversification
procesos,
of the
sino
products
en
and the
todas las otras
productivity,
acciones que estamos
but
haciendo
also
como
in some of the other
colectivos,
actions
¿no?
that we're carrying out as
Buscamos que
actors.
también
And we're trying to prove and to show that these are practices that we can show, prove, that we can communicate and circulate among the members of the movement so we can
Va a ser muy interesante cómo podemos buscar más
have
soluciones
something
para
very
mejorar
interesting, more
las condiciones
solutions
socioeconómicas que
and
tienen estas cooperativas.
effective solutions that we're trying to look for.
Entre las otras, sí,
So among
entre las otras actividades que
some
nombramos,
other activities that we have named,
siguiente, donde están las actividades.
we're going to go ahead and talk about the other activities.
Esto no
You can
es
see
un
the slide.
evento aislado,
And
sino
this
que
is not an
conjuntamente
isolated
están
event.
realizando
As I was
diferentes
saying,
acciones
we're
y
having
que
a
incluso
series of
en las
actions.
comisiones de
We
trabajo
were
del Consejo
trying
de
to look
Bienestar
for work
Estudiantil
commissions,
son articulados
council
con la Comisión de
to
Incidencias y
be
con las
coordinated with the
comisiones de
Incidence
producción
Commission
sostenible.
and the
Entonces están
Sustainable
realizando
Production
diferentes
Commission
estudios,
as well.
digamos, de
So
impacto
we're
y
carrying out different impact
planeación
studies,
concreta, CLAC,
actions
que
that are
significa
concrete and
poder
clear, so we
socializar
can publish and we can
voces o
communicate to the rest of
participación
the
en
members. This is
discusiones
something that
y
we're going to
además
have
también
as
hicimos otras
participation of the
movilizaciones
COP30.
que
And we
participamos
have
también
a
en el 15 de
awareness
octubre
raising
y diciembre de la
campaign that is going to
COP30.
be from
Y
October to
bueno,
December
vamos
for
a compartir
COP30.
lo que
So we
haremos
invite you
con
all
quienes
so you can
tienen
share it
estos materiales
on the communication
disponibles.
area. We have
Además,
the
también
material so you can
un,
use it,
un
so you can
evento
share it, you can publish as well, you can
Panamá
upload it.
de
We have
actualización
also an
de
event
datos
with ASI
y
in
es
Panama
importante también seguir estas
as part of the
organizaciones. No
alliance.
solamente es la
This is
preparación y
important
la
as well.
previa, sino
Not
también
only the
cómo
previous,
continuar
but the
el
preparation, but to
posicionamiento hacia adelante.
move forward and to see how we can have a position for the future as well.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Creo que es muy importante eso.
This is very important, yeah.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Ana Laura.
Thank
Sí,
you, Ana Laura.
justamente,
Precisely.
lo que nos compartes es, digamos,
What you
evidenciar
shared
realmente la
to
importancia de poder
summarize is how
mostrar, digamos,
important it
todos
is for
los
us to
esfuerzos
show
de las
all of the different
organizaciones
efforts of the
de pequeños
organizations,
productores y
small
productoras, las
producers,
organizaciones
different
certificadas
organizations
por
that
lo
have been
general, ¿verdad? Con
certified,
productores y
generally
productoras, trabajadores
with
y
producers
trabajadores
and workers
ya
and
hacen
growers,
hacia,
are
digamos, la
currently doing
resiliencia
towards
hacia el cambio
resiliency,
climático
towards
y
climate
que son
change.
una herramienta
And
muy
these
importante
are
hacia la
different
acción
tools that we
local,
have
¿verdad?
handy
Hacia la
for
acción en el campo
local action
para crear
on the
cada vez
field
más
so we can
niveles,
create
mayores
every
niveles de
time
resiliencia.
greater
Entonces, por un lado,
levels of
nos
resiliency.
serviría
So on one
justamente
hand, we would
mostrar
like
esa
to
capacidad que ya
show the
existe
capacity
dentro de
that
las
is existing
universidades de
already within the
resiliencia de
membership
las
towards
organizaciones,
resiliency. This is
pero
something that the
también, digamos,
organizations
nos
already have,
gustaría
as I mentioned, but
compartir
at the same
una
time, we would like
propuesta
to
de
share
cómo
sort of
escalar,
a
digamos,
proposal on how to escalate
esa capacidad, esa
this
posibilidad de
capacity, this
inversión
possibility of
a
investment,
un nivel mayor, ¿verdad? Donde
for
ahora
a greater level,
realmente las
where we
organizaciones ya
can
tienen
now
cierta capacidad
have
de trabajar
certain
hacia la resiliencia
capacities to work looking
a nivel
always for
social y
resiliency,
ambiental,
socially,
si
economical,
realmente
environmentally
queremos
speaking.
prepararnos
And
para un
is it that we
futuro,
really want to be prepared
la
for the
inversión
future? Now, the
financiera
investment,
adicional para crear
financially
más
speaking,
capacidad
that we need
en
to
las
create this greater
organizaciones
capacity on
hacia
the based
una producción
organizations
realmente
for
sostenible y
a real,
resiliente, eso
sustainable, and
requiere,
resilient
digamos, de un
production
esfuerzo
needs
adicional
an
y
additional
también
effort, as we know.
buscamos socios
And
y
we're
socias, ¿verdad?
trying to look for
Estratégicos con
the
quienes invertir
stakeholders and
en
the
esta
partners that
propuesta,
help
¿verdad?
us to invest
Entonces,
on this
a la vez,
proposal.
la propuesta
So the
hacia
proposal
una producción sostenible y
to a more
resiliente es
sustainable
algo
and resilient
que
production
queremos
is
llevar
very
tanto a
important.
los
This is
pasos de
something,
la COP
some
como
message that we
en
want to convey
adelante
on
en el próximo
COP30,
año, en los
but also
próximos
for the
años,
future, on the
2026
coming
en
years, next
adelante,
year, 26 and
en
on,
nuestro diálogo,
as
intercambio
part
con
of
los
our
países
dialogue
interesados en
with
poder
interested
juntos
parties, so we
invertir
can
cada vez
together
más en los
invest
programas de
more and
producción
more
sostenible y
on the
resiliente.
sustainable
Y en
production and
este caso,
resilient
nos
production
gustaría entonces
programs.
mucho
So this is why we
presentar
would like to
el programa
present
de café, ¿verdad?
the coffee
Y
program.
para esa presentación del
And for
programa de
this
café,
specific
pues aquí
presentation,
estamos junto con algunos
we
compañeros,
have some of our
miembros del
colleagues,
Consejo de
members
Directores CLAC
of the
y
director,
representantes de la red
the council directors of
con
CLAC,
quienes hemos
and
iniciado este
representatives of the coffee
ejercicio
network.
juntos
This is an
para
exercise that we
trabajar
started
esta
together,
visión que tenemos
and we want to
qué
work on the
significa para
vision.
nosotros una
What
producción resiliente
does
y
a
sostenible en
resilient
el tiempo.
production means for us?
Entonces,
Sustainable a long
conmigo vamos
time.
a presentar ese
So
programa. Primero
this is what we want to present.
Renato
This
nos
is the
apoya con
program that we
un
have. We have
contexto
Renato
e
for
introducción.
a bit of context,
Cerramos la
an
entrevista
introduction.
con doña
Then
Meli
we have an
Rodríguez García,
introduction with
es
Meli,
presidenta
I
ahora de
think,
la red
that
Café,
has
para compartir un poquito
the
más
presidency
sus
of the
visiones de
coffee program.
colaboración que hemos
She
visualizado
has a
alrededor
series of
de la
activities and cooperations that we had visualized for sustainable
Adelante,
coffee
Renato, yo
program.
entiendo que
So
usted
Renato,
va
I
a hablar en
understand that
portugués, así
you
que
are
no
going
hay
to speak in
problema,
Portuguese.
usted puede compartir en portugués.
You can go ahead and start your presentation. Thank you.
E a todas. Eu
Good
sou
morning, everyone.
Carlos Renato,
I
sou
am
representante de uma cooperativa de
Carlos
cafeicultores
Renato.
aqui no
I am
Brasil
representative
e
of
também
coffee
faço
growers here in
parte
Brazil.
do conselho da junta administrativa da CLAC.
And I am also part of the
E
administrative board of
sou um
CLAC.
dos representantes, né, um dos delegados
I am one of the
da CLAC na
representatives and
COP30 em
delegates
Belém do Pará,
of
juntamente com a
CLAC
Laura.
for COP30 that is going to be
Então, falando um pouquinho do programa de
where we present the program with
café
Ana Laura.
sustentável,
So
né,
to discuss a bit
da
of
CLAC,
program of sustainable production
primeiro vamos contextualizar as
of CLAC,
problemáticas
first we need to
dos pequenos produtores
contextualize
em
the
América
different
Latina e
programs
no Caribe.
of small producers and growers, the problems
Mudança
that
de
are
temperatura, né?
facing in Central America, Caribbean,
Hoje
changes
temos
on temperature.
grandes problemas com a elevação da
Currently, we
temperatura
have a problem
nas áreas de
with the
cultivo de
high
café, né?
temperatures on
E
the
isso
coffee
está
growing
afetando muito
plantations.
a
And this is
produção.
something that is currently affecting
E há uma previsão de
the production.
que 50% de toda a
There's a
área
provision
de cultivo de
that
café até
50% of the whole
2050
area of the
tenha
coffee
uma
plantation
redução.
to 2050 is going to be
E
drastically
também
reduced.
a questão
And also,
das precipitações de
I mean, the
chuva, né?
situation, everything that has to do
Secas,
with
chuvas
rainfall,
prolongadas,
intense rainfall, long
secas,
storms, droughts as
e
well.
isso afeta todo o ciclo produtivo do
This
café.
is affecting directly the whole cycle
Também temos
of a
muitos
coffee.
problemas com pragas e enfermidades, né?
We do have a lot of problems as well with
E
pest
tudo isso é
illnesses,
influenciado por esse aumento
and
da
this is
temperatura, né?
directly influencing as well because
E
of the
tivemos
high
crises muito
temperatures
fortes
that we are
de
experiencing.
ferrugem, né?
We had a very
Na América
important
Central, né?
crisis
Em
recently
2013
on Central America in 2012,
e em outros países, né? Também
2013, but also
temos
in
esse
some
tipo de
other
problema.
countries. Not only of Central America, we
E
experienced the
tudo isso, né?
problem
Todas
of
essas
rust.
variáveis climáticas
All of
que
these
afetam o
climate
ciclo produtivo
variations are affecting directly the
também
production,
afetam os preços, né? No mercado.
the cycle, the prices
Hoje nós
on the
vemos uma
market as well.
instabilidade muito grande nas
So
bolsas, né?
currently, there's
Por
a
conta
lot of
dessas
stability
alterações
on
climáticas
the market,
nos
even
principais países
after the
produtores, né?
experience of the climate changes for the
O que é o
main
programa
coffee
de produção
producer
sustentável?
countries. So what is the Sustainable Production Program?
É uma resposta estratégica da rede café e da
This
CLAC, né?
is a strategic response of the Coffee Network and CLAC
Diante das necessidades dos pequenos produtores da América Latina e do
because of the
Caribe,
needs of Latin America and
com
the Caribbean
enfoque
producers
produtivo e na resiliência.
with a productive approach, but also for resiliency.
Conta com um conjunto de intervenções, né?
There's a series of
E
interventions
das
that we have thought
organizações,
of
né? Do comércio justo,
with
para melhorar a
organizations
produtividade do
on
café
fair
com
trade
maior eficiência e resiliência
for
climática,
coffee production that is more resilient on
incrementando a nossa
climate,
participação no mercado de café.
increasing our participation on the coffee market of fair trade.
Onde pretendemos chegar, né, com o programa?
Where are we heading with the
Ele será
program?
implementado em três fases:
And what is it that we want to
priorização das
reach?
necessidades,
We have three phases of
com base na
implementation
estratégia de
depending on the
volume de
needs,
venda de fair trade,
with
volume de
the sales
produção disponível,
volume on fair
convencional
trade,
e orgânico,
production that is available, conventional,
um índice
organic
de
as well,
vulnerabilidade
and the
climática
index of vulnerability for
e de
climate
acordo com a cooperação recebida.
according to the cooperation that we have
Fase 1 seria México,
actually
Peru e
also
Honduras.
received. So it will be Mexico,
Fase 2,
Peru,
Nicarágua,
Honduras.
Brasil,
This
Colômbia e
is phase
Guatemala.
2, Nicaragua, Brazil, Colombia,
Fase
and
3,
Guatemala.
El Salvador,
Phase 3,
Costa
El
Rica e
Salvador,
Bolívia.
Costa Rica, and Bolivia.
Nick, ahora es Marilyn.
Sí, podemos retomar desde acá. Muchas gracias, don
Thank
Renato,
you,
por
Renato,
compartir este contexto.
for sharing this
A
context.
continuación vamos a compartir un poquito más sobre, digamos, el contenido, la propuesta.
Now
Esta
we're
tiene
going
como
to share more
intención, sobre
about
todo,
the
que nos
content,
planteamos
the
en el programa
interventions
sostenible,
that we
¿verdad?
propose in the
Partimos
sustainable
con un
program.
ejercicio
Now we start with
conjunto
the
con
next
miembros de la red
joint
Café
exercise with the
para
members of the Coffee
establecer
Network
una visión, una teoría de
to
cambio, ¿no?
set a
¿Dónde nos
vision,
visualizamos en 10
theory of
años
change, where
como
we see
organizaciones de
ourselves in 10
productores
years in the
de
future
comercio
as a
justo en café
fair
en
trade
esta región
producer
de América Latina y
organization
el
in
Caribe?
our Latin American
Y
and the
la red
Caribbean region.
Café dijo,
The
pues
Coffee
nos
Network said,
visualizamos
we
realmente como
see
líderes
ourselves
en
as
la productividad
leaders
de
in
café
the
fair trade con
fair
una
trade coffee
eficiencia y
production
resiliencia
with
climática.
efficiency and climate
Entonces,
resiliency.
para trabajar hacia
So,
alcanzar ese
in
nivel de
order to
liderazgo
work
en el tema de
and
la
reach
productividad
this
y la
level
resiliencia,
of
sí
leadership
ocupamos
and
trabajar,
resiliency,
digamos, con
we
herramientas
need to work
financieras,
with
por un
the
lado,
dynamic
que
tools on one
directamente
hand
permiten
that will
posicionarnos,
allow
digamos, como
us to
líderes
position
y a
ourselves
la
as
vez
leaders
vamos a invertir
of the
mucho
coffee
en
market,
fortalecer las
and we need
prácticas
great
productivas
investment in
con un foco de
reinforcing
innovación, digamos,
productive
y
practices with
alineamiento
a
con el
focus
mercado,
on
¿verdad?
innovation
Conocer bien cuál es
and
ese
the
contexto con el
market,
mercado en el
knowing well
que
what is that
existe,
market
pero
context, the
también
interest
cuáles
it
son las
has, but
necesidades
also what are
de
the
sus
needs
organizaciones miembros,
of the
de CLAC, de
member
comercio justo,
organizations,
y buscar la innovación
and
en esos procesos
looking
productivos
for
y
innovation in
permitir
this
a
productive
la vez
process that
mirar
allow us at the
productividad y
same
la
time
calidad,
to take care
pero
of the
también
productivity
cada
and
vez con mayor
quality,
resiliencia
but
hacia
also
los patrones cambiantes,
resiliency
¿verdad?
in
Entonces,
response to these
sobre ese
changing
programa
patterns.
identificaron
So,
la red
with
café
this program, the
tres
Coffee Network,
bases o tres
they
líneas de
identify
intervención
three pillars
muy
or three
gruesas en los cuales buscamos trabajar.
intervention
La primera línea de
that we
intervención
want to work
ocular
on.
es
The
el
first pillar
fortalecimiento
is
del mismo
strengthening
liderazgo de la red
leadership
café, ¿verdad?
itself, the leadership of the coffee
Posicionándose en
network,
el mercado,
positioning itself in the
buscando
market
desde
and
la red de
looking
las mismas
from the
organizaciones de
network
café
of
esas
the coffee
alianzas,
organization,
coinstancias y
these
voluntarios en la
partnerships
producción cafetalera,
with
¿verdad?
the
En América
organizations
Latina
involved in coffee
hay
production in Latin
instituciones de
America that are
café a nivel
institutions
país muy
that work with
interesantes que tienen
coffee
líneas de
in each
intervención
country that are
y de
very interesting
investigación muy
and that
interesantes con las
have
cuales
interventions
como
and
CLAC
very interesting
tiene
research
interés en
in which CLAC
colaborar,
is
trabajar más y hacer
interested
juntos, ¿verdad?
to collaborate with,
Pero
to
también hay
work
instancias
closer
a
to them.
nivel
And there are some
internacional
other
que
international
comparten ese
organizations that
interés y ese
share this
trabajo
interest
dentro
and
de la
this
producción
work
cafetalera y en
for
particular
coffee
con
production,
organizaciones de
and in
pequeños productores y
particular
productoras.
with the
En este
small
contexto
producers
también es muy
organizations. And in
importante
this
que la red
context, it is
café
very
cumplir
important
con
for
los
the Coffee
estándares
Network to
internacionales, ¿verdad?
comply with
Conocer esos
international
estándares
standards, to
y
know these
comprender
standards, and
cómo
to
las
understand
regulaciones a nivel de
how
mercados, por un lado,
regulations at
inciden
market
en las formas
level,
de
on one
trabajo de las
hand,
organizaciones
have an
internas,
influence
pero
in
también
the
desde
work
la
of the
red café
organizations on the
poder
field, but also
dialogar
to understand how
con
we can
las diferentes
have
instancias del
conversations with
café
different coffee
y de los
organizations in
entes
the
de
coffee
gobierno, ¿verdad?
network and the
A hacer red
different governments
las
to
oportunidades y
show
las
them the
redes
impacts and the
requisitos,
opportunities
regulaciones y
of
estándares
these requirements,
se pueden
regulations,
observar
and
desde la
standards
perspectiva de las mismas organizaciones de productores y productoras.
from the perspective of the
A la vez, la red
producers.
café está muy
The same
interesado
time, the
en
Coffee Network is really
potenciar
interested
y
in
definir esas oportunidades y
boosting,
retos
defining these opportunities
donde se combinan
and
los intereses
challenges where we
comerciales y
mix
productivas a la
market
vez
and productive
con
interest
sus
with
socios
the
comerciales, ¿verdad? No hay comercio si no hay
commercial
café
partners.
y
There is
por
no commerce if
ende
there is
poder
no coffee.
dialogar y
Therefore,
interactuar, actuar juntos con actores
being able to
comerciales
have
para
conversations and to act
preparar,
together
digamos,
with the
el piso
commercial
productivo
actors
para un
to prepare
futuro
this
cada vez
productive
más
world
retador es muy
for a more
necesario. Entonces,
challenging
ese
world
diálogo quiere
is
asumir el
very
liderazgo con el
necessary.
café.
So the Coffee Network
Y
wants to have these conversations,
incluso a nivel país, buscar
even at
entonces
country
este
level.
diálogo entre productores
We
y
want to look for this dialogue
intervenciones
among the
locales y
producers,
regionales como
the local
regionales que
producers,
permitan
regional
dialogar
producers, national producers that want to
pues
get
preparar
involved
a las
in
organizaciones para
preparing the
ese
organizations
futuro
for
en el que
this the
está esperando, ¿verdad?
future that is
Con
waiting for us
pues en las mejores condiciones posibles, ¿verdad?
and to be
Segundo
prepared in the best
pilar
possible
o las líneas de
conditions.
intervención
Second
en las que
pillar
pensamos
that
dentro
we
del programa de café
visualize
sostenible
in the
es
Sustainable Coffee
la
Program
transformación productiva de
is
la
a productive
cafeicultura con
transformation of
innovación,
coffee
¿verdad? En
production with
corto
innovation.
nos referimos a InnoCafé y realmente en
InnoCafé
este contexto lo que
is the
buscamos
Spanish
y queremos
acronym,
fomentar es
and
una
we want
innovación
to foster
sostenible,
innovation,
resiliente y a la vez
sustainable and
rentable,
resilience
justamente para
innovation that is
estructuras de
profitable at the
pequeños
same
productores y
time for the
productoras, ¿verdad? A
structure of a
veces
small
las
producers.
innovaciones para la
Sometimes
producción a gran escala no
innovations
necesariamente
for large
funcionan
scale production
para organizaciones de pequeños productores
don't
o están
necessarily
todavía
work
a un
for the
costo
small
pues no
producer networks,
accesible para las
or
familias
they have a
productoras y sus
cost that
organizaciones.
is not
Entonces, fomentar
accessible for
invitar
the small
al sector
producer
comercial, perdón,
families.
a
So
colaborar con
inviting
café,
this
con las organizaciones,
innovation
a
sector to
encontrar
collaborate with organizations in the
formas
coffee
de
network so
innovación
we can find
que sean
innovative
accesibles para
ways
las
that
familias
are accessible
productoras de
for the
pequeña escala, en este caso son muy
small scale
importantes.
producer families.
Otra
Is very
línea de
important.
intervención,
Another
¿verdad? Dentro de la
subline of
transformación
intervention
productiva
among
es
this
combinar, ¿verdad? El
productive
análisis
transformation
de
is
los
to
procesos productivos
combine the
desde la naturaleza genética de la
analysis
planta, ¿verdad?
of the
Como el manejo
productive
integral
processes
de
starting from
cultivos,
the generic
justamente para
characteristics of the
trabajar
plant
cada vez más en esa
to
perspectiva de la
plantation
agroecología
techniques to
que
work on
tanto defendemos desde el comercio justo, ¿cierto?
agroecology, which
Entonces,
we
dentro de
advocate
ello,
for
identificar
at
esas
fair trade.
prácticas
We want to identify these
necesarias,
necessary
digamos, para un buen
practices
manejo de cultivo,
for a good
pero a la vez
management of the
combinarlo con elementos de análisis,
plantation,
de
and
medición y de
at the
investigación
same time we
que nos
want to
permite incluso
combine
a
this with
nivel
research
genético, digamos,
elements that
localmente,
allow us to
aprovechar, digamos,
take
las
advantage
mejores condiciones
of
para
the
la
best
producción
conditions
de
for
café de calidad.
production of quality
En este
coffee.
contexto también
In
la
this
línea de
context,
encontrar y desarrollar modelos
we
productivos
also work on
diversificados
finding
que a la vez
and
son
developing
económicamente
diversified
viables
productive
para las
models
mismas
that are
organizaciones y sus familias
economically
y
suitable
enfocados
for the
a
producers and their
contextualizar las
families.
necesidades locales que las familias pueden
And
tener.
these solutions have to be
Es otra
adapted to the
línea de
local
trabajo muy
context of the
importante,
families. And
¿verdad?
that's another very
Poder,
important
digamos, tener una fuente
intervention
de
line to
ingresos
have a source of
variado que permita,
income
digamos,
that is
asegurar esa
diverse and that
contribución a hacer
allowed
ingresos dignos,
us
que
to
tanto
have this
buscamos dentro del
contribution
sistema Fair Trade y para el bienestar de las organizaciones y sus familias hacia sus medios de
that
vida
help
sostenible.
us to bring
Y en
families
esa
a
línea
living
también
income
buscamos
and
entonces
sustainable sources of
trabajar
income.
todas
And
esas
we are working
intervenciones
together for all
a
of this
través de los
intervention
lentes de la
through the
conservación, la
lenses of
atención, la
conservation, adaptation, mitigation of climate change, going to higher levels of resiliency towards a better understanding on how we can get closer to work with everything we already know about the climate context and how to be prepared as a small producer organizations to increase our levels of resiliency. So in block number 2, we actually at productive level, we're looking for the implementation of these good practices. We are exploring the possibility to work on field schools. We're working on the training models. So we have a very horizontal and practical system of sharing experiences and systematizing the results. And that leads us to the third pillar. In this context, it will be very important to manage and analyze information about productions very well. If we start this journey together to invest on the Sustainable Coffee Program, it is very important for our own learning and for the sake of sharing these results with our partners to have a very good data management. So through our data cafe, we are looking to managing the information about production. So this information allows us to generate a decision-making process at the organizations based on the information they collect on the field. And for that, we want to invite our partners, maybe from the universities, fair trade, research centers that are aligned with our sustainable production goals to work on research projects that allow us to find these solutions, these innovative solutions for the processing and commercialization of sustainable and resilient coffee. So we can share these learnings about the needs of the producer organizations, but we also need to find these partnerships to find these partners that help us to back up the analysis, the decision making, and that we can learn from it and that we can share these learnings. Therefore, we also want to create a learning community where we share our challenges in this process, our best practices, so we can share all of this among ourselves and with our partners. This is an important part of the program. We also want to visualize and position these success stories that we can already see, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to have more and more as we progress in this sustainable coffee program. We want to share it with all our family that is working towards this resiliency. And finally, the most important thing at the end is why. Why are we looking to foster this information management? We want to work on this to make timely decisions about productions with the organization based on the measurements they can have in their inner control system. We're sometimes not used to having good measurements, documenting evidence, and working with it. Even if we have this perception of what is happening on the field, we don't necessarily have this culture of documenting these things very well to share it with the general public and to use the same resources for our decision making. So this will be the third pillar of the program in which we look to co-invest and the ways in which we can co-invest and collaborate for the production coffee program will be shared by Marin Mesa, chair of the Council of Directors of the Coffee Network. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm coordinating the CLAC Coffee Network, and I'm going to talk about the impact and changes that we want to achieve with the Sustainable Coffee Program. But first, I would like to share who are we in the CLAC Network. We represent 400 organizations, fair trade certified organizations in 10 countries in Latin America, and we have 87% of fair trade coffee that comes from our Latin American region. What are we looking for with the program? We want fair trade producers in Latin America to lead coffee production with a greater efficiency and resiliency in response to climate change. We hope to have a great impact with this program in the productivity of our farms. What are we looking for as CLAC? We want the coffee network to become an actor that gives dynamics to the production of coffee. That's why we're strengthening the coffee network so we can lead this process and help each other. We want to have more profitable and resilient productions through the use of innovating processes in Latin America that responds to the needs and trends in the market. Anakin has shared this. We have to align productivity in the market so we can have a market where to sell our product. And we also have to be innovative. We cannot keep repeating the same things because we know that that hasn't brought positive results. Climate change is affecting us each time more, and we have to be innovating to keep this coffee production. We want to consolidate productive and management systems that are more effective and resilient and that adapt themselves to the market needs. That's why we need to adapt ourselves to sustainability, not only environmental sustainability, but also economical sustainability. What are we proposing with this program? We're proposing to co-invest with us. Sustainable coffee programs look for the efforts of different actors in the change, strategic, private and public partners to allow them to invest on the resiliency of coffee production in our region. That means working together to improve the climate actions in our region. And with that, the coffee turns into a key instrument to contribute to sustainable production for small producers in our communities. What are we proposing? The CLAC Fairtrade. We invite our strategic partners and commercial partners to be an active part of this program, supporting in giving their support in the following actions that come from the pillars that Annie mentioned before, and that will allow us to have the impact we're looking for regarding the strengthening of the network, complying with the international standards in the regulation of markets of coffee production. As we know, there is the greater demand for compliance with the norms such as the European regulations of deforestation and all of the others. So producers have to comply to have access to these and other markets. Participation in conversation spaces between producers and partners. We also want to create advocacy and understand each other in all the change. In seasons like this, with the volatile market, high prices, but if we understand well why the price is not reaching the producer and the rest of the market, it's important. We want to have conversations on how to respond to climate change, but also how to respond to market dangers at a global level. We have already talked about the innovation of production of coffee. Aniki has already mentioned that, and we are inviting to take part of the following action, strengthening capacities and training for innovation. As what she said, we don't want to keep repeating the same things, but we have to go towards innovation. Our technical teams have to strengthen their capacities and develop capacities in order to make changes in our production, strengthening the financial capacities and managerial capacities to dynamize the productive models. We have to diversify, being more financially competitive, being better business people, because each producer is a business person, being better business people, having the resources and the adequate financial management to be more competitive in the market. Then we can not make this possible if we don't have the teams or the tools for the adaptation and mitigation actions in the coffee production context. We have always said that yes, we have to be resilient, we have to protect our environment, we have to produce with quality, but that includes having financing and enough tools to be competitive, because we can produce a lot of coffee, but if we were not competitive, it doesn't make sense for the producers. Producers need to improve their quality of life. So buyers want good coffee, and we also want a good quality of life. So we have to work and invest on these to make it possible. Then we have the third pillar that Aniki mentioned about research and data management for resilience. These are concrete actions that we can take on this coffee data that requires an investment of resources and working with our partners, working with our research organizations that can accompany us in these processes. And the seventh action that we can mention is supporting the exchange of best practices and learning for the production and commercialization of coffee. There is a lot of knowledge, there is a lot of experience, and we think that we can share this experience and this knowledge through these exchanges, but these spaces also require resources that we sometimes don't have at the small producer organization. So this is an action where we can co-invest and find very good results. These are 7 actions. We can mention many more, but I think that we can have this impact we're looking for if we focus on these 7. We know that we have some strategic partners in this webinar and also the small producer organizations, but for those that didn't participate or that want to know more about our program, we're going to have other presentations in other spaces to add to these efforts for the benefit of our producer families. I hope that this is the start of a conversation and that study will be a contribution to this, where we can get the resources to strengthen our small producers organizations in Latin America that I mentioned at the beginning, where more than 400 small producers organizations with thousands of family behind them. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, Merlin,
Thank you so much,
por este
Melanie,
cierre,
for
digamos,
this
de nuestra presentación.
closing of our presentation.
Bueno, con muchísimo gusto, con eso terminamos
With
la
this, we
presentación del
finish the
programa,
presentation of the
pero
program,
estamos
but
muy
we
atentas si hay algunas
are
consultas o comentarios, como estamos en
expecting your
modo webinar,
questions or
hay dos
comments. And
formas
since this
de
is a
hacerlo.
webinar,
Usted
there are two
puede
ways to
escribir
ask
en el chat
questions or make
su
comments. You can
comentario o
leave your
también pueden
question in
levantar
the
la
chat, or
mano
you can
y
also
podemos
raise your hand,
darles
and we're
la
going
posibilidad de
to
compartir el audio
allow
y
you
compartir
to
su
use your
observación, sus
microphone so
comentarios
you can share your comment
con
or ask your
nosotros. Así
question with
que de
us.
esas dos maneras
So
pueden,
these are the two
digamos,
ways in which
compartir.
we can share.
Y nos están preguntando si compartimos la
There's someone asking
presentación.
if
Claro, con
we're going
mucho
to share
gusto,
the
la
presentation.
presentación la podemos
Yes,
compartir
gladly we can
con
share this
todas las
presentation
personas
with all the
presentes y de igual manera la
presence and
grabación
also the
de este webinar se
recording
la
of this
compartimos con mucho
webinar.
gusto
We're
con
going to
personas
share
que
it
no pudieron
very gladly
acompañarnos.
with the people that
Y nuevamente, como
couldn't be
dijo
here
Merlin,
today. And as
estamos
Marilyn said,
todavía
one more time, we're still
finalizando, digamos, nuestro marco
finishing
de
our the
indicadores, nuestro marco de
indicator
expectativa del
framework or a
programa,
budget framework for the
para poder
program.
seguir compartiendo mayor detalle, sobre todo con nuestros colegas
Later, we will be able
ejecutivos,
to share greater detail
mayor
with our
detalle y
partners
la
so you have
información
all
necesaria
of that
para poder
necessary
conversar con
information
posibles
to have
actores comerciales u
conversations with the
otros
possible commercial actors
que
or
podrían estar
others
interesados con
who might be
en el
interested
programa.
in co-investing with the program.
Muy bien, vamos a ver si tenemos alguna mano
Okay,
levantada
let's
o
see if we
algún
have any hands
comentario
raised
en el chat
or
o
any
consultas.
comments
Todavía
or question
no
in the
veo
chat.
consultas en el chat.
I don't see any
Vamos a ver
questions in
si
the
hay
chat. Let's
alguno
see if
por aquí.
there is
Creo que todavía
any
no.
hand.
Pone que Joao Almeida ha escrito algo en el chat.
Joao
Vamos a
Almeida
ver.
has
Muy
shared the
bien.
comment in the chat.
Joao, muchas gracias.
Joao,
Una
thank
duda.
you.
Perdón,
One
hablaban de una
question.
agenda
You
de
talk about an
necesidades
agenda
para la
for the
investigación
need of
aplicada.
applied
¿Podrían ampliar un poco
research.
más
Could
sobre esto?
you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sí, efectivamente, Joao, es
Yeah,
un poco
exactly, Joao.
la idea a través del mismo programa.
The idea is
Nos
that through
planteamos,
this
digamos, desde la red Café, diferentes áreas
coffee
que
network,
posiblemente tienen una oportunidad de
we want to
mayor
identify different areas
investigación.
that have
Puede ser en la parte
further research
operativa, como
opportunities. It
hacer,
can be
digamos, buscar mayor eficiencia a nivel de
production,
costos de
looking
producción
for more
o de procesamiento,
efficiency
donde
in the
nos
cost
gustaría
of
como
production or
probar
processing. We
diferentes
would like to try different
diferentes métodos de trabajo o
working
compartir desarrollo
methods
de
or
trabajo que
different
están todavía
working
pendientes de
tools that
investigación.
still need more
Otro elemento puede
research.
ser a nivel
Another
genético
element
de las
might be the
plantas,
genetic of the
donde
plants,
ocupamos
where we
mayor
use some
apoyo de
more the
investigación aplicada sobre cuáles
support of
son
applied
esas
research
posibles soluciones
to
o
know what are
insumos
the
locales que
possible
permitan,
local
digamos,
solutions
haber mayor resistencia hacia ciertas tendencias
that
de
allow us to have
enfermedades,
more
por ejemplo,
resistance
sin
towards
afectar la
disease,
calidad
for
y la
example, without
productividad de las
affecting the
plantas
quality and productivity of
dentro
the
de las zonas
plants
locales, ¿verdad? Usando
in the
la
local
riqueza
areas
local de
using
las
this
propias
local
plantas en la zona para poder hacer este
value
análisis.
of the
Y
plants
así en
to
diferentes
conduct this
elementos,
analysis.
pues existen
And
necesidades de
there are different
probar
elements
de
that
diferentes formas, pero de
need
acompañarlo de un proceso
this
de investigación
testing of
aplicada
different
para poder tener suficiente
methods, and we
evidencia,
need to have
¿verdad?
this with
Y compartirlo
an applied
con
research
productores
progress so we can have
vecinos
enough evidence to share this with the other
sí, compartir
producers,
esos aprendizajes.
share this learning.
Entonces, en cada
So
línea de intervención
in that each intervention line, we have already started with the Coffee Network and identification of possible partners or organizations that are active in this field. We didn't share it here in the presentation, but yes, we for each intervention line we have an analysis of organizations that might be interested in working with CLAC and the Coffee Network, and as part of this approach, we are going to look for these options. We can share that with greater details, and we're open to suggestion from the outside, gladly.
Muy bien. Creo que hay algunas consultas más, ¿verdad? En el chat. ¿Quiénes serán los actores que están pensando para la investigación aplicada y análisis? Ok, misma pregunta de parte de Pablo, entonces, no sé si
I don't know
por ahí tal
if
vez tenemos el slide.
maybe we have the slide
No sé si Elba está con nosotros y si tenemos el slide con la línea de intervención 3 con los
for the line of intervention 3. This is basically the same question, but let me explain some of the instances that we thought to have conversations on dialogues. Again, as we said, this is not exhaustive. This is something that is from the CLAC network. The Coffee CLAC network is just to document some of the questions that we would like to develop and to identify different allies, possible allies. So these are names that Patty have included of possible allies, but we mentioned universities because of fair trade, right? Possibly investigation centers such as CAINET, CIAC, and some others. I think that we could explore different lines of investigation for this matter.
Sí, claro, con gusto.
Ok. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank
Como
you.
decía Anneke,
As Anneke
no
mentioned,
ha sido
it's
actualmente
not
una cuestión tan
something that
exhaustiva.
we have been
Obviamente
doing
nosotros todavía
intensely.
estamos dispuestos a recibir
We are
comentarios.
willing to
Dentro de
receive different
estos
comments and
diferentes
questions.
podemos mencionar a LEICA, al CIDAD,
We have Leica, CEDAP,
a CIAT,
as part of the
con quien ya hemos
organization,
trabajado en el
CIAT.
pasado también con
We have worked
CATIE,
with them in
al
the
igual que
past,
LEICA también
CATIE
son
as well.
de los socios que
ICA
ya
are
vienen
part
trabajando
of
con
the
CLAC y que vemos que
stakeholders and
también
partners that
han
have been
apoyado
working with CLAC
esta
and that we can
nueva programa de café
trust that they
sostenible.
support
Las
this new
universidades, la
program of
Latinoamericana para
sustainable
mucho
coffee,
gusto,
Latin
y
American
vemos
universities for fair trade,
actividades de Naciones
but
Unidas
also
que han
entities of
realizado
United Nations such
que
as
también trabajan todo lo que es con
DME,
agricultura.
YO,
Y
that are working on everything that has
entonces
to do with
este
agriculture,
monitoreamiento climático
systems
y
for
alertas
monitoring
tempranas que
climate,
existen tanto a
and
nivel regional
early
como a nivel
warnings that we have regionally,
territorial.
but
Eso es lo
also
que
at
tenemos
a government level.
actualmente.
This is something that we have thought of. This is something that we have on line number 3
Este programa de café sostenible.
for the Sustainable Coffee Program.
Súper, muchísimas gracias, Elba.
Thank you. Thank you,
Y
Elba.
veo otra
Yeah.
pregunta desde
We
Osicafe,
have
de
another
parte
question
de Elizabeth,
from
que
Cosicafe.
pregunta,
Elizabeth is asking,
¿para cuándo estamos previendo el inicio
what's
del programa? ¿Cuándo vamos a
the
empezar a ejecutar?
first date of the
Nuestra
program? When
intención es
are we
poder
going to start
empezar a
the
ejecutar
execution?
a
Where the
partir del
idea is to
próximo
start
año
next year,
2026.
execute on
A la vez, nos
2026.
interesa
At
mucho
the same
poder
time, we think that it's
digamos,
interesting
buscar
to
alianzas, digamos,
align or
con
to look for the
nuestros
alliances
colegas en la
with our
CENIFOX, ¿verdad?
colleagues
Para
on
justamente
CENIFOX,
juntos
so
hacer un gran
we
esfuerzo de
can together
movilización de recursos,
carry
¿no?
out this
Tanto de
effort for
las fuentes
the
financieras
allocation of the
público-privado como de los actores
financing, if
comerciales
it's public,
mismos.
private, commercial
Entonces,
actors,
el alcance de lo
commercial
que podríamos
stakeholders.
lograr hacer en el primer
We
año
think
y así
that
seguirlo en siguientes años
in
va a
a
depender
few
mucho también
years,
de
we're going to have the possibility of being able to mobilize and allocate the resources. Now, we have been seeing in the past more and more interest, so we can co-invest in certain elements that have to do with production, medition as well. And at the same time, certain interventions, very specific, that we consider now that we have a resilient and clear program, thinking where are we heading, is going to make easier for us to incorporate these opportunities of co-investment with the commercial actors within the vision of the coffee program that is sustainable and resilient, right? So it's a bit of, it has to do with how concrete the possibilities of financing are. But this is the reason why we wanted to present the possibility of investment within the context of COP. We are looking also to talk with different actors that are looking to invest on resiliency, on climate change, productively speaking. And I believe that we're going to be more clear every day on how we can start the program on 2026. I think that we have a hand. Luis Alvarez, do you have a question?
Sí, ya tiene.
Can you hear us, Luis?
De lo contrario, tampoco veo más consultas en el chat. Entonces, creo que
we don't have more questions on the chat.
Hemos ya llegado, ¿verdad? Creo para ir cerrando poco a poco.
So we think that we're now about to close the exchange. Of course, we're going to share the webinar. We're going to share the presentation. I think that we're trying to translate the presentation so we can share it with and post in English. So I believe that this is going to make easier the dialogue. Víctor from Ecuador, I think that he has a question. Talking about the concerns that we have on the current market because of the prices that are high. There's no difference between the certified product or coffees that are not certified. This is completely true. And what do we do regarding this situation? I mean, to pay the first price. I don't know if someone from the Coffee Network wants to answer this question. Part of the program of sustainable and resilient coffee, it's, I think, a way to co-invest every time more and more towards this answer specifically, because at the end, the difference of the work through collaboration, horizontal collaboration between the network and the partners towards the coffee to a greater and greater quality of the product that is more resilient, more sustainable, well, it has a cost, needs an investment. that it's something that we have to consider and to open this dialogue for the market, that a part of how the market is moving and how the prices are changing on the market in the field, there's the actual need of co-investment for greater resiliency to make sure that the coffee production towards the future it's sustainable and fair. And this is why this is our main challenge, to open the discussion with the market and to be co-responsible for this concern that is existing already among the growers and the producers and organizations as well. Some of the colleagues, I don't know if you want to add on to this comment, but the prices, the market prices that are quite elevated are always a challenge, specifically for the schemes of certification because of the same matter. The difference is not as important right now because of the recovery interests. Meli?
Bueno, buenos días nuevamente. Víctor y compañeros, creo que este es un reto que tenemos
Victor,
todos los
colleagues, I believe that this is a
profesionales.
challenge that we all have.
Que parte
As Anneke mentioned,
de este programa es
part of the
visibilizar y
program
acercarse
is
con
to
los
make
aliados
visible and
dentro de
to
este
approach
cambiamiento
the allies,
para
the
poder en
industry,
conjunto ver
right?
los retos.
So we can
Vemos
together
acá
discuss the
algunos
challenges. I
un
mentioned
reto
at the
grande es la
beginning that
volatilidad del
a
mercado,
huge
la
challenge
necesidad
is
de altos
volatility
precios.
on the market.
Cómo
The
demostramos
high
que esos
prices,
altos
how
precios
can
no
we
llegan
prove that these
al
prices are
productor
high
por
and
diversos motivos.
these are not, prices are not
Fair trade o no
reaching
fair trade,
the
en un momento se tejaron 20
production
centavos
fair
entre
trade or not fair trade.
la
20
mañana y media
cents went
mañana
from the
en un cambio
market
de
and
posición,
middle
etcétera. Entonces es un mercado
morning because
donde
of the
es
change of
difícil
position.
navegar para todos.
What I mean is
Ahora,
that it's
siempre
difficult for all of us
tratamos de demostrar
to
y de
navigate
defender
this volatility, but
el
we
ingreso
always try
adicional para los
to defend
productores en café. Esta ha
the
sido
additional
una
income.
lucha de años de poder
This is
demostrar
something that we have been doing for
nuestro
years,
café
trying to
tiene
prove
mayor
that our
valor,
coffee
que tiene
is
un valor
of greater
que no
value.
solo es el producto y la
The
calidad,
value is
en lo
not
cual
only
hemos
for the
trabajado
quality and
mucho,
the product,
sino que en
something
todas las
that we have
buenas
been
prácticas que hacemos.
working strongly, but the good practices that support this as well.
Todo esto pues nos va afectando
And
cada
that all
día
of this is
a los
affecting
productores y
us day after
pero
day
es
to the
parte del
coffee growers
fortalecimiento
and
de la red, de tener
producers.
una
But this
sola
is a
voz
way
como red
to
y poder
threaten
hablar
the
en nombre de
network,
todos
to
nosotros,
talk
todos
and
los
to be a
productores de
single
café,
voice
que
for the
eso ha sido la
producers.
fortaleza
And this is
definitiva
one of the
para
strengths, I believe,
crecido
for CLAC.
cuando hemos trabajado en
When we have
conjunto,
had
pero como un
changes on the
nacional.
prices, we have been
Si
able to
debido a
work
que
together,
seguimos
but
siendo
with a
esa
single voice, as a
única
single
voz que
network.
nos
So
permita hablar
again, let's
desde
try to be
todos los
that single
países,
voice and
Bolivia,
to, for all of the
Ecuador,
countries, Bolivia,
Colombia,
Ecuador,
Perú,
Colombia,
México,
Peru,
Centroamérica,
Mexico,
y
Central
que digamos el
America.
café de nuestros
Let's be a single
productores y
voice and
café
let's say,
certificado
okay,
tiene
our
mayor
coffee,
valor.
the certified product,
Ese es el reto
it has a
siempre
greater
y
value.
es un
This is the
reto de manera
challenge
conjunta donde
always, and this
todos
is something that
podemos
is a
alzar
challenge
la
for
voz
all of
y
us.
no
We need to be a
pasar por
single
ahí a
voice
decir
again,
que no es eso
and
lo que
not to say,
decimos en CLAC.
oh no, this
La
is
voz de
not what
CLAC
we're
es la
saying in
voz
CLAC.
de todos.
CLAC is a
Muchas
single
gracias.
voice and it's our voice. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Merlin.
Thank you, Merlin.
Muy bien, yo creo que con esto estamos
Yes, I think that
llegando
this
al
is
final de la
how we
sesión,
will
ya que vemos que
close
no hay más
today's
comentarios
session.
en el chat,
We
tampoco
don't have more
más
questions on the chat.
levantados.
We don't have more comments. We don't have hands.
Entonces, bueno, solo
So I
reiterar
believe
nuestro
that again,
compromiso
it's
por
important to
seguir
reiterate
compartiendo
our
más sobre el
commitment
programa.
so we
Vamos a
can share
preparar
more
más
about the program.
materiales,
We're gonna
vamos a
create certain
socializar,
material that we can
vamos a profundizar más en
communicate
la información y
and
en un
share.
nivel más
We are going to
detallado,
go
sobre
deeper
todo
on the
con nuestros
information on
colegas
greater detail
de
with our
las
colleagues
CNFOs que
and
quieren conocer
CENEFOS.
más de
They
cerca
want to know a bit
el
more
programa para poder
of the
promocionarlo en
program,
sus
to
mercados.
get to know the details
Y
at a
entonces,
deeper
para
level
ello, si
so they
busca
can
más
promote it in their
información,
markets. So
diríamos en
again, if
primer
you need
instante, con mucho
more
gusto,
information, of course,
nos
on
pueden
first
contactar a
instance, you
nosotros.
can
Si
contact us
no
and we
tienen
will
los
be gladly
contactos,
sharing the
está aquí la
information. I don't know if you don't
invitación,
have the
no hay ningún
contacts, but you can reach me, and I will be again happily sending all of the information that is requested to the parts that can help us, that can share with us, that can support us with the information that we're looking for and that we need. So, Xiomara, Executive Director, the floor is yours, so you can give the closing remarks.
Gracias, Anneke. Bueno, nuevamente
Thank you,
a
Anneke.
todos y todas, muchas gracias.
Thank you,
Sinceramente, por
everyone.
participar en este webinar.
Honestly, it's very
Creo que
important to
en la
have your
manera
participation on the
como hemos
webinar. I
también
believe
trabajado
that a
con el
way
case de
to
CLAC,
better understand
también
what we do
podemos
in
nosotros
CLAC,
articular ese trabajo
it's
con otras
a way to
empresas.
also
Gracias
articulate
también a la
with some
Comisión de
other
Producción
actors. Thank
Sostenible,
you
al
to the
igual que toda la
Sustainable Production
que, como les
Commission,
decía al inicio, han
Coffee
estado
Network
muy activos
members that
en la
have been
construcción de
very
este programa.
active on the
Bueno, no lo
construction
dije
of
al
the
inicio,
program.
pero también nuestra presidenta hoy está de
Also,
cumpleaños, así
our
que
president
Yariel,
today,
muchas
Yarieli,
felicidades, que la pase
it's her
muy bien
birthday.
ahí
So
con
happy
su
birthday,
familia y
Yarieli.
también con
Enjoy
todos
the
los
day with
miembros de
your
su
family and
organización.
members of the organization.
Bueno,
We
para
wish you the
finalizar,
best.
quisiéramos
So as part of the closing
decir
remarks, I would like to
para nosotros
mention
este
that for
posicionamiento de la
us,
COP30
the
es realmente
position that
importante.
we're going to share in
Como habrán
COP30, it's
escuchado por
extremely
ahí en las
important. Have you
noticias,
heard
pero desde
on
la
the news,
presidencia de
perhaps?
Brasil se animó a que no fuera una COP
Brazil
más,
presidency
sino una COP donde se
promoted not
pudiera
to be a COP
mostrar acciones,
more, but
mostrar
a way to
resultados.
show the actions,
Y
to
por ahí
show the
entonces el
results.
posicionamiento de
And
CLAC
this is why the
y el
CLAC
poder lanzar el
position is so
programa también
important and to launch the program
sostenible está
that
orientado a
is
ello, a
sustainability.
mostrar
This is what we're trying
acción.
to look for, to
Creo que también es
present
un
the
año muy
actions, to show the
importante para
actions.
todos
This is a very
nosotros
important
porque
year
es el
for
año
all of us
internacional de las
because
cooperativas.
it's the
Así que también es
international
una
year of
oportunidad
COPs.
para
So I
demostrar
think
lo
that
que las cooperativas
this is a great
agricultoras
opportunity so we
hacen
can
en los
prove what we
diferentes
do
países
on the
a
coffee sector,
favor
what we do
de
on the
sus
different
miembros, a
countries
favor de los
to
pequeños
benefit
productores
our
y
members, the
productoras.
small
El
producers
programa de cambio climático, como bien
that
lo
we have in our countries.
mencionaba
The
Renato,
climate change program,
nace
as
también
Renato
por esa
mentioned, was born
problemática que nosotros
because of that
vemos y
same issue
vivimos
that
día a
we
día. Todas las
experience day after
afectaciones
day
en el
and that we
cambio
witness.
climático, los
Everything that has
cambios
to
en la
do with climate
temperatura,
change,
las
rising
precipitaciones que cada día son
temperatures,
distintas, muy
rainfall that
inestables,
are
nuevas plagas y
lacking
enfermedades o plagas
stability,
que ya teníamos
pests,
antes y ahora las
pests that
vemos
we
nuevamente,
experienced in the
y las
past
afectaciones del
that
mercado.
we are
Por ahí la
seeing now
mayor
in the present,
preocupación, el tema de
affectations on the
volatilidad
market,
de los
everything that has
precios,
to do
precios altos,
with
que
the
no siempre
prices,
llegan
high
también a
prices,
punto o que
volatility,
llegan con muchos
not
retos,
always
sobre
reaching the
todo a nivel de
producers, but
organizaciones.
presenting a lot of
Me encanta
challenges for the
realmente la
organizations.
visión de la
I love the
radioconferencia,
vision of the
pese a
Coffee
que hay
Network.
escenarios negativos de
Since
que
we
solo
have
los
negative
participantes, solamente el
scenarios,
50%
2050,
de
only
las
perhaps the
áreas donde se está
50% of the
implementando
areas
están
of
aptas,
coffee plantations
lo
are
que la
going to be
plataforma nos
available.
está diciendo
Well,
es,
the network is saying
vamos a tener una
we're
excelente
going to
producción y
have an
además
excellent
vamos a
production
liderar esa producción.
and we're going to be
¿Creemos que eso
leading
es
the
posible?
production.
Claro
So
que
we
sí, si
strongly
trabajamos
believed that
hoy
this is
mismo
possible if we
en
were
equipo.
together
Quiero
today
contarles
towards
que desde
coffee.
CLAC también tenemos un
From
programa
CLAC,
de
we also
banano
have a
sostenible,
program of
donde desde hace
sustainable
ya un par de
bananas,
años estamos
where
trabajando
for a
también
few
en
years we have
iniciativas
been working on different
similares.
initiatives that
Así que
are
para
quite
CLAC también
similar.
es muy
So for
importante que
CLAC,
no
it's also
solamente
important
trabajamos
that
este
not only we
programa
work
en
on the
banano,
coffee program,
pero también lo hacemos en café
we
y
do it
próximamente en
in some other
cacao y
products.
esperamos que en
Cocoa,
los
it's
próximos
coming
años
next, and we hope
podamos
that for the
implementarlo y
coming years,
replicarlo
we are
en
going to be
todos los
able to
productos.
implement that and
Pero
replicate
bueno,
it in
vamos
many
de
other
poco a
products.
poco y como
It's
decía mi
step by
maestra
step.
de primaria,
And
despacio,
how my
pero con
teacher
buena
used to
letra.
say,
Así que vamos a
slowly
ello
but
y
with good
recordemos
letter.
que ahora tenemos esos tres pilares
Remember that
de
we have three
liderazgo de red de
pillars:
café,
leadership of the
liderar,
coffee
valga la
network,
redundancia,
leading
la producción sostenible y
the
resiliente.
sustainable and resilient
Número dos,
production.
que es transformar las
Two
producciones
is
de producción de
transformation of the
café también.
production of coffee
Y con innovación, la innovación es muy
with
importante,
innovation.
sobre
Innovation is
todo en este
extremely
año y el que
important,
viene.
specifically for
Y el
coming year and
tercero,
this
que
year.
era la gestión de la
Wow. And
información
third
y la
is the
producción de
management of the
café y
information of
también el
coffee
análisis
production,
de esa información del
analyzing the
café.
information as well,
Para todas
coffee
estas
data,
acciones, para
right?
implementar acciones
For
en
all
estos
of
tres
the
pilares,
implementation of
definitivamente
these three
necesitamos
pillars, I believe that we
aliados
have
estratégicos. Ya estamos en
strategic
ello, ya
allies.
tenemos varios
This is
años
something that
trabajando
we're
con
currently
diferentes
doing. We have been
aliados
working with
estratégicos,
different allies,
pero sin
different
duda
years,
necesitamos llegar
different
a más
scenarios,
aliados.
but we want to
Por eso
reach
queremos
more.
invitarles no
This is why we
solamente a
invite you
compartir el
not
posicionamiento de la
only to share the
COP30
position for
con
COP30,
quienes ustedes lo deseen,
with whoever you consider appropriate, with the buyers, with the allies at a local level. But at the same time, that is something that we want to share. If something says, well, I would like to know more, we can gladly coordinate a webinar so we can let your local allies, strategic allies know everything about the webinar. So I would like to promote that let's build together a bit more everything that represents CLAC and a resilient future for our producers. We're more than happy to help. So any information that you need, you know that you can only contact us, and we will happily send you everything through a chat, through an email. We're more than happy to help.